got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, tight and birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position. You can live it if you have some things in the air. If you got game, wave like you just don't care. If you got game, playing like you got no fit, and you got game. If you came here to win, yeah, you got game.
Welcome to rBeatz Studios. We're here today doing local music somewhere, where we cover the local music scenes and all across the country. And we try to find things for aspiring artists, such as yourself, the indie artist. I think of you more as aspiring. I know you're indie, you don't have a label yet, or maybe you're working with an indie label, but you're definitely aspiring. You're growing in what you do. And that's a very confusing world. The technology has changed. It seems like it's changing all the time. The social media platforms change. The streaming platforms change. And we know that collaborations, for instance, are a big thing. And of course, with collaborations come contracts that can be confusing, and how to get that generated can also be costly. And protecting your intellectual property, your registrations, think about all the things that you're trying to register for. It's a very confusing world. And I've been trying to find things that can make that easier, and I found something for you. This is going to be a great show today. I have in the studio Thomas Athey, who is the co-founder of Mesa, and Mesa makes those things simpler that we just talked about, and we're going to cover a lot today. We're going to cover even copyrights, we're going to cover royalties, we're going to cover blockchain, but we're going to cover it in a way that you can finally understand it and it not be so confusing. So again, welcome here to Local Music Somewhere. Thomas, how are you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me, Terry.
Absolutely. And I met you at one of the music conferences.
Oh, yeah.
And you not only, you have this look in your eyes like you know what's going on, but you do know what's going on, and you know the details. You also know how to talk in a way that people can understand, which that's pretty important because there's so much information that's thrown at musicians, and musicians are super intelligent people. I mean, they learn instruments, they learn to sing. There was a lot of practice and a lot of knowledge that had to be put into that. So we know that. It's not a thing of their intelligence, but it's absolutely a thing of ignorance. When there's so much coming at you, it's hard to stay updated. But in this world of music right now, you're given so many opportunities. You're in the driver's seat as an independent artist to get this thing started and to grow what you're doing. But your company takes a lot of the guesswork out of some very important things. So I want to get into that. But first, because this thing that you do is so detailed, I want to know more about you, like your background. How did you even get here?
Yeah. So I just graduated from Davidson College in May. Sort of probably the last 6-7 years. I mean, as early as kind of early high school, I'd always been.
They have a great business program.
Yeah, entrepreneurially interested. Yeah. That's kind of one thing, and the other is that I've always been loved music. It's always been around me. Had family members who play professionally, like a jazz player. My uncle, my younger brother was. I'm originally from Chicago, and he was in the top conservatory in Chicago. Played piano and drums. I played piano growing up, but wasn't that great in as a musician, but always loved it. And I spent my first 2 years of college building a community which educated people about blockchain technology, and so that was kind of my first real business. And
we're going to get into the details of what blockchain is, which a lot of people don't. They just tell you, hey, we're involved in blockchain. Right. Even the conferences that we go to, that's one of the things that they'll throw out there, but they never really explain. So I want, and we'll get into an explanation.
So, exactly. So we'll get into that, but essentially, I kind of had this entrepreneurial drive, and I started this first business with a friend from high school, and we both decided, it was kind of time to wind it down. Didn't see a great way to scale it, and I actually wanted to build something with the tech, or just like build something in the tech space in general. At the same time, one of my roommates from Davidson, his name is Pice. He started making music, so give him a little plug here. And I kind of just thought, this is cool. Like, for fun, let me just like learn a little about the music industry. Just poke my head around, and because again, I loved music, but it was always just like, that you got to be a rock star. There's nothing. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of business stuff here. And ended up finding myself in a music tech research community that at the time was doing a lot of research about emerging tech and music. Specifically at the time it was blockchain. And now they are still around. They're called Water and Music, a really great community for anyone that is interested in the intersection of tech and music. A lot of the research today is about AI and that sort of thing.
And how do they find out about that?
The community?
Yeah.
So it's called, I think it's waterandmusic.com, or if you look up Water and Music, you'll find it. Sherry Hu actually spoke. Spoke at Confluence.
It's incredible.
Yes. And who ended up being my co-founder, Andreas, he was a lead researcher in this community, and he wrote a paper, which, we can, I guess, get a little bit more into, but we kind of connected there and decided to start this business. And it was a little bit different than what it is today, but we met the summer of 2022, kind of started taking, in some capacity, working on this business in January of 2023. So coming up on like 2 years, but he was still he was managing an artist and still does, and I was in school. So, kind of part-time, but that's, I guess, the kind of where I'm at today. Yeah.
Well, what was your first problem you were trying to solve in the music industry?
Yeah. So
that led you to that.
Yes. And so again, we'll get a little bit more into this, but essentially, and I'll give a little context on my co-founder. He's a bit older than me. He's spent 20 years in the music industry. He went to Berklee College of Music.
Great place.
And then, was a producer, then a manager, and then ran his own record label. So kind of has done it all in the music industry. And at the time, he was kind of really interested in having the next step of his career be a little more, tech focused, the intersection of music and tech. So he was writing research and trying to learn himself. What we kind of came across, and this was kind of the peak of like the last crypto kind of market. And it's funny that, we're kind of seems to be we are in this kind of next good bull market for crypto. And so essentially the issue we originally were interested in was that, there's several rights holders on a song. And if you want to put that song out as an NFT, and broadly kind of any new medium, right, it's pretty difficult to ensure that all the rights holders are getting paid out, because there's a lot of knowledge that, the producer who might have 5 or 10% ownership of the copyright, they have to go make a wallet and know what a wallet is and know what an NFT is.
Right.
And actually the artist that's distributing this NFT is kind of at risk, because you're not paying out everyone. And we, and saw this as a way of like, how can we help everyone get paid out? But also like, that seems to be a good way to help like scale this space, something that we believe in, which, we'll get into more. Sort of started there and essentially realized these artists don't even have contracts created. And this is still, that in itself is an important issue.
And there's one thing with that. We're talking about, the rights holders of the songs. Yeah, in country and gospel and jazz and all that, there are a few. But when you get into pop and hip hop and sometimes R&B, there are a lot.
Yeah.
So that is a lot to keep track of.
Exactly.
Make sure everybody's covered.
Yeah, and so we realized the contracts aren't being even created, and then as we kind of looked further into that, it's because the files aren't even being organized, and the artist doesn't even, they're working with 5 different producers on 5 different songs and can't remember what, maybe they know the producer, but was this engineer here, and what did we agree on, and it's it's a whole mess. So we realized and the kind of larger context is that you have this whole new class of artists, right? Like the independent artists, the DIY artist that technology made it possible for them to make music and distribute music for cheap.
And build their own tribe pretty quickly.
Exactly. And so that's great. They have more creative freedom than the artists have ever had. But the DIY means you have to do it all yourself. And so that means they also have to take care of contracts and organizing, their projects and registering their works. And so we realized there's this huge administrative burden that artists have to take care of, and they're not doing a very good job of doing it.
Dude, I mean, it's like this information is thrown at them. You can say the technology came into place for them to do all these things. But when we first got, when we first had home computers, the technology was there, but understanding DOS, was crazy.
Exactly.
Before, Windows came in, before everything became more user friendly, and of course, all these years later, they're drop and drag, and
exactly.
There's no code writing or anything that you have to understand. So that's where the musicians are in this process. The technology is absolutely there. The gatekeepers that they used to have to wait for are not near as necessary as they were, but understanding that and have to understand 12 different places of it is, that's very, very overwhelming.
Exactly, yeah.
And what you're doing, coming in with that, continue, because, you're solving a huge problem, a few huge problems right there.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think it's not only, there is this huge influx of information that artists have to deal with, but also you're an artist. You want to create, right? You want to make music. You don't want to deal with this. So that's kind of the other part of it. Like, let us help you take care of these things that are very important, but you probably don't want to deal with them.
Yeah, even intellectual property.
Right.
That especially early in your career. Can we touch on that a minute? And then so what do you do with that?
Yeah, so we just launched our kind of first product, like standalone product, 2 weeks ago, and it's a contract builder. So artists, we kind of realized, and we tested our platform over the summer and realized that there's a lot of friction in the contract creation process, right? Like, you have to either go find a lawyer, which is going to be very expensive, or go find templates that you have to trust that they're doing, they're accurate. And then you have to, communicate with all your collaborators and, get on the same page about the splits, fill out this contract if you're using a template, or go pay a lawyer, and then send it out to everyone, right? And if you're using a template, like, how do you send it out? Maybe you have to go set up a DocuSign and make an account and pay for that. And there's just, a lot of friction in this whole process.
And even as much as that, even when you're contacting the attorney live, I've seen this a lot, where people, especially in non-music capitals, they'll go to an attorney not understanding how specialized, attorneys are. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a music business attorney, even if you have a music business attorney, sometimes they just don't know a lot about this, which also affects the templates that you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, we kind of realized, like, at the simplest level, it's really important to have these contracts, and they don't have to be very complex. You just need some agreement of ownership splits with, a few other clauses. And so we're creating, so essentially artists answer 7 questions and have this template filled out for them. And then if, they can look it over, and if they want to look it over with an attorney, they can. And if it looks good, then you just, with one click, we are integrated with DocuSign and send it out to all your collaborators for you. And so that's kind of the first, product, and that's out now, and that's at our website. Anyone can check it out at, I think it's linked in here, but it's messawallet.io. And we're currently working now on this platform, which is kind of just a further kind of integration of that, which is a place where you can organize projects as they're being created. When the project is done, you then get a contract created for you, because, the contract builder is great, but again, it doesn't really fix the issue of, like, well, what if I don't even remember all the collaborators? I need their contact info and this or that. And so the idea is we want to centralize where your files are, right? Because, one producer might be sending you beats through iMessage or someone through email, and it's all over the place. So through our platform, you can bounce your file, right into our platform, create a project. As that file evolves over time, and as you have new collaborators on that project, you're able to bring them in, keep it all organized, all in one spot. And then when the project's done, you just kind of put in your ownership splits, and you're able to propose ownership splits throughout the duration of the project. So another thing we realized is, like, there's sometimes a lack of transparency. So, everyone's on the same page about the splits. And when the project's done, you click one button and it's sent out to everyone. If if you like that template, and then you just sign the contract. So that's kind of the first step, and I can share more about further stuff.
And we will, because what you're talking about there and how that information is gathered is what makes the blockchain so valuable. With decentralization and the transparency, the things that we talked about. Before we get into that, how did you get the name Mesa, and what does it mean, and how does that fit your mission?
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yes. So our original name was Copyright Wallet, which, it's kind of a boring name, a scary name.
Says it all, but
yeah, it says it all. But copyright, that's not a fun name. And so, we kind of realized like we need a new name, and we put together an acronym, which was Management Enabled Smart Assets. Very complicated. We were just kind of messing around, and with this idea,
Messa-ing around.
Yes, messing around, and we
Dad joke of the day.
Yeah, but because ultimately what we're trying to do is like you're creating these assets, and we're trying to make them smart assets. We're trying to bring life to them. There's there's contracts tied to them, and revenue will be tied to them, and partnerships and all this stuff. And we were like, this is cool, but that's like too long. No one's gonna know what that means. But Messa is like simple. Let's do it. My co-founder is based out of Colombia, the country. So we also work with a lot of Latin American artists, and Messa in Spanish is table. So it also kind of fit that, ultimately we're trying to help artists have a seat at the table, or,
create their own table.
Exactly. Create their own table. So there's a lot of, play on words you can do there. And so we just kind of went with that.
I'm glad I asked that question, because I love that answer.
Yeah.
And going back to what you said before in the information, let's go ahead and do this where we just cover what the blockchain is.
Yes.
And make that kind of simple to understand. What would be your definition of blockchain?
Yes. So the blockchain or a blockchain is it's ultimately just a ledger of data. It's a way to track data, track transactions, but in a decentralized manner. So
let's tell him what decentralized
yes,
is.
So it means that there's not one entity kind of controlling that data. And I'm happy to share some resources if people want to learn more. There's some great videos, and I think it is a complex topic, and so I will explain it. Can also share some resources, but also I think part of what we're trying to do is like allow people to use this technology and just kind of without needing to know the technicalities, right? Like when I send an email, I don't need to know things about servers and this and that. No. But very simply, it's a decentralized ledger. And so one way you can kind of think about it is there's what are called nodes, which are essentially computers. So just a bunch of computers tracking the data, and there are mechanisms built into the blockchain to ensure that everyone has the same, you can almost think of paper of just data transactions. Everyone's on the same page, and there are some really amazing mechanisms implemented to make sure no one's lying about those transactions. And so that's kind of the blockchain. There's a terrific YouTube channel called Whiteboard Crypto that I would recommend. They do great visual, simple explanations of blockchain, Bitcoin, everything kind of blockchain and crypto related. So if anyone wants to dive further into that, highly recommend that YouTube channel.
Yeah, and that's the one thing about the blockchain or blockchain technology is people associate it so much with Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, but it's basically information gathering.
Yeah.
And with that, it's going to have so much value in the music industry because of the things that we've been talking about today. Your collaborators, your producers, the tracking of different things, and it's accurate, it's verified, and they have full transparency while also protecting your privacy. So that makes it unique, and one person does not control it. No government controls it. No individual controls it. In the case of cryptocurrency, it has this thing where you don't need a financial institution, in the middle of somebody, so it changes a lot. I'm sure there'll be fights about just that part alone, but it helps so much with what goes on in the music industry. So in that, we understand that a little bit more. How does your company make it easier for artists, let's say contract generation, and then we'll get into automation after that.
Yeah. So I would kind of, I guess, take a step back. I kind of see specifically in music, like what blockchain can offer, I think, is in kind of two capacities. One is, it is this kind of public, decentralized like data system. And I think there's a lot of various data needs, and in the music industry, there's a lot of kind of middlemen that control the flow of metadata. So I think there's kind of something interesting there, which is a bit more technical and probably not that interesting to this audience. I think maybe it is. I think the other one is that kind of whether it's cryptocurrencies or NFTs and these just digital assets we believe will provide kind of digital authenticity in an age where you have unlimited digital stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so to unpack that a little more, artists, we think, ultimately artists will be able to leverage digital assets to engage better with fans, to monetize better ultimately. And our kind of goal is that we want to bring back the value to music because, music has very much been commoditized. Like you pay $9.99 a month to have access to literally all the music on the globe. And that's great if you're a consumer, but if you're an artist, and I'm sure any artist knows this, the math it doesn't add up, right? You simply will not get paid from your streams. Again, you used to pay, at least 99 cents a song. Now you're $10, $15 an album, and you're paying $9.99 for everything. And so it's very much commoditized music. We think that digital assets can hopefully bring some value back to music because of the digital scarcity, which I can get into a little bit more, and ultimately help artists monetize better.
Yeah, that's so valuable. And just with the fact that you said they have access to so much, and as an artist, you're just kind of like out there. It does help with your branding, and there are other ways that you can monetize what you're doing. But bringing the value back to music, so much goes into the recording costs have not changed. Mm-hmm. Marketing costs change a little bit, but you still have cost involved in that. Touring costs have not changed. Some if anything, they've gotten more expensive. So with that part of the equation shrinking down when it comes to the actual the music itself, it puts a cramp, or it just jams the wheels in what you're trying to do.
Totally.
Now, with what you're doing, does this? How does it integrate with, let's say, streaming platforms or other social platforms or tools that they already have? Pre even their digital audio workstations.
Yeah. So Messa itself is sort of a pre-release product to, again, help with your administrative needs. And so even going into the kind of blockchain stuff, there are a lot of marketplaces being built out, places where you can put music out as an NFT. The NFT space hasn't really taken off as much as we would have thought. What has become really like this as of recent has become kind of more popular is actually leveraging cryptocurrencies themselves. So, imagine an artist kind of launching a cryptocurrency that allows people to almost like bet on their success in a sense, but owning that token gives you access to certain things, right? So it's still the same thing. And it again, creating this like scarcity of like certain people have this access to you and that sort of thing, and you get to monetize off that. There's a lot of places building those marketplaces, and we're not doing that. But what we're doing is trying to help ensure that the kind of rights management is done correctly. So again, when you want to go distribute that music as a digital asset, you need to make sure that all your owner, everyone that's a copyright owner is also getting paid out. And so we really help with that process and helping, with the contract creation, with actually creating wallets for everyone so that they can distribute their music. So that's one. And then kind of to your question of like, how does this play into the world of Spotify and that sort of thing? We don't see that it'll be, digital assets take over Spotify. I think, they'll kind of be in tandem the same way that, maybe TikTok, you use TikTok for your marketing and to get discovered. But a lot of people, you can listen to music there. It doesn't mean it's like one or the other, right? So
Right.
Spotify is Spotify, but now how can you use these other tools to help you, whether it's, for marketing, get discovered, or help monetize and engage better with your fans. So we see them all kind of playing together in the same like ecosystem.
Well, that was a great answer. And we're going to take a quick break really quick, because when we come back, there are quite a few things that we still need to discuss. But we're going to take a quick break and hear from our friends and sponsors and let you know what's happening on rBeatz.com. So you can tell your friends and you can tell your family and let them know that this is something unique, that they can find everything they need to know about their independent artists in the music scene right here. Very interesting podcast as well. But we come back, we'll have more with Thomas Athey. So we'll see you in a moment.
Welcome to the world where rhythm meets passion, where your brand dances to a beat of its own. This is rBeatz.com, your one-stop solution for all things music. Imagine your brand soaring high on the wings of a pulsating beat. Picture the thrill of a crowd, energized by a soundtrack that perfectly encapsulates your vision. That's what we do here at rBeatz.com. Our mission is to intertwine your story with a unique rhythm that captures the heart of your brand. Whether you're a startup looking to make a grand entrance or an established brand aiming to redefine your sound, we've got you covered. From adrenaline-pumping tracks for a sports brand to soothing melodies for a wellness venture, our beats are as diverse as your needs. Remember, it's not just about the beat, it's about the rhythm of your brand. So come, join us at rBeatz.com, where your brand finds its beat. rBeatz.com, your brand, our beats.
We're very honored to be here today and to form a partnership with Michael and bringing an American Hockey League team to Charlotte. We really feel that this is a huge step forward to the growth of hockey in North Carolina and in the South.
He goes, scores! A deflection in front, and the Checkers win the series!
This is my new home.
They score again. Sorla. It's the hat trick.
And Elkovich for the empty net. He scores! The longest game in American Hockey League history, and we are in the midst of it. Rebound chance. St. Patrick. They're going to the Calder Cup Finals. The Charlotte Checkers are Calder Cup champions! They are the kings of the American Hockey League, and there's no one left to beat. Lawrence can win the game. Fake shoots!
It's been 590 days since the last hockey game in Charlotte, and the Checkers will don a new affiliate on their sweaters and a familiar face as their new captain.
Dangling shot, he scored! Checkers with it, rebound, Carlson buries it, we're back tomorrow night! On the right wing board, Samoskevich finds some ice shot, he scores! And the Checkers have their first lead of the Queen City Outdoor Classic. Number 124 for number 21, the new franchise record!
Welcome back to Local Music Somewhere. Got in the studio today, the co-founder of Mesa, and his name's Thomas Athey. Wealth of information and something for every independent artist, and it's the kind of information that I've really been wanting to get to you. We're going to try to cover what we can in this one interview, but this sounds like something that we need to bring him back sometime. I looked on, of course, I've been on the site, Thomas, and on that, I saw that you have some great testimonials, at the bottom. Do you have any specific success story that maybe you want to share?
Yeah, so we actually have just kind of so we spent the summer like beta testing our product with a small group of like 30 artists and kind of getting feedback from them. Just launched our, initial kind of product publicly like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, really just launched
So I hit you early enough, yeah.
Yeah, hoping to get the success stories very soon.
Yeah, but you already have, if they go on the website, they'll be able to see the testimonials,
yes.
From the artist and what you've been able to do for them so far. Now, one of the things that you also do is that you do workshops on contracts, and you have them. Of course, you have a couple of workshops. You have the ones on copyright contracts, and of course, the other ones in that you have the one for the masters. And then also the ones for songwriting. And I think that most musicians probably know what that is, but can you break down the difference between the master and, of course, the songwriting? Yeah,
and I'll kind of just to begin by saying that we have been doing kind of various workshops with various communities, whether it's studios or some online communities. So if anyone's listening and interested in something of that sort, we would love to discuss that. So yeah, there's kind of the most important kind of core of really the administration and the legal stuff is the two type of copyright contracts. And so you have, and what's also confusing is they all come by different names, but you have the songwriting contract and the master, and the songwriting can be referred to as the composition, and then you have the master recording copyright known as the master. And so historically, and gets a little complicated because these laws were really created when you had music, like sheet music.
Right.
So someone, there's intellectual property in the sheet music itself, and then there's intellectual property in you actually playing that.
The recording.
And and I think a kind of really nice analogy I like is that it's when you're cooking, right? You could have a recipe. You have a recipe for, let's say, the cookies, and you invented this recipe, and that's great, and there is something valuable in that. But there's also, the chef, whether that is you or someone else who actually baked those cookies, and both of those are valuable assets, and it's very important for artists to understand that, and the master, the composition or the songwriting and the master also have different kind of payouts associated with them. On Spotify, you'll get paid out differently. You have to collect those royalties from different places.
Right.
And so yeah, that's kind of the simple of it. I can get more into it if you want. But yeah.
I think I would think they understand, but I know artists in music capitals that still don't understand that fully.
And what's very confusing today is that a lot of times, even maybe in the past, and I'd say hip hop and it's hard to define the line, right? Like in country music, okay, or any you wrote the song, okay, that's one thing, and then someone sang it, but in like hip hop, for example, the producer, right? Like typically they're on both contracts. They're on the songwriting, they're on the composition and on the master. A lot of times the songs are being created, right? Like there's not two settings where you somehow made the composition and then played it. You're making it at the same time. And so that can get sort of confusing. So, it's important to kind of understand that. And that's where we're there to help streamline the creation of those two contracts because you need to have them done and they're very important.
Yeah, and you have, being an art, I used to be an artist manager, as you know, and in that, this is something I did not do, but I see other artist managers that do this, and especially with superstars, that they can get away with it. And I'm not going to state an opinion either way on this, but you have an artist that had nothing to do with writing the song. Then, in addition, to getting their side of the master, they want their side of the composition or the songwriting as well. So, in order to do the song, that would be included, or they wouldn't even record the song. but that's an important distinction. And then you have people like Mariah Carey, for instance. For all the lovers or haters of the Christmas song, I personally love it. But that she actually wrote that.
Right.
You know, she writes her songs, and so she actually wrote that one. So in addition to getting paid on one side, you know, she has the composition or the songwriting side of that as well, and she's doing very well at Christmas every year. It just seems like her net worth grows. Every time Christmas, especially. You know, you look on, you see all the haters, but I don't know if it drives the algorithm up or what happens. But she gets paid well on that. So these are things to know and have in place, and knowing that. Can they find out about your seminars or your workshops online?
So one thing I'll add to, you know, as a kind of a use case, right, of the importance of establishing these two different contracts. So Mariah Carey wrote this song and then sang it. Whenever that song that, you know, you hear on Spotify or in a store or whatever with her voice, she's getting paid out in the master recording and the songwriting. But whenever anyone ever plays that song, and they're allowed to do that, and they'll make some money from that, she's also getting a piece because she owns the songwriting. So very important to, again, it's important to understand these are two different assets. And additionally to what you said earlier, kind of on our platform, you know, the transparency part is important as well. So we allow artists, you know, as you're bringing in collaborators, you can kind of propose ownership splits that, you know, just aren't binding, but you can propose them. And you know, if it turns out, well, this artist wants in on the songwriting and maybe that's not going to work for you. Okay, like that's okay. And we can stop working, but it's better than, you know, I spent weeks working on this track to then turn out, you know, I have to agree because I put the work in. And, you know, so that's an important part of what we're doing too, is kind of the transparency of it.
And transparency is important. Understanding the transparency is very important. Like when you're at a major label, for instance, and you send an auditor even in to go over those files, those reports are so complex.
Right. And probably, you know, purposefully so.
Yeah, they are purposefully so. There's no maybe about that. That's probably a given. Not a probably a given. It is a given. So you're sitting down and you're trying to it's transparent, but being able to have it in a way that you can understand is a totally different thing.
Right.
That's why I see this technology. You know, it's another reason it's so valuable. You have access to it, and do you think the major labels are going to get more involved in maybe that way? That it would be more transparent, and
I mean, I think, you know, they're like when you're at the top tier of artists, there's also, you know, a huge like there's a huge, you know, the way like you're kind of trying to like control the room in certain ways, right? Like, I don't know, that's just business. Like, you know, they want to get that percentage or and whatnot. So, you know, I don't really see the transparency thing changing, and it's just kind of, I guess business. And that's why, like, you know, we consider, at least right now, this being a product for independent artists and even like, independent artists now in the future want to open that up to signed artists. But when you're at the, you know, top of the top, like you have a lawyer on payroll, and part of that is not even someone to make contracts, but it's someone with relationships who can, you know, put you in the rooms you need to be in and negotiate on your behalf and that sort of thing. And so, I don't know, that's probably just business. And
it's just so evolving, and the things that are changing that do put artists in more of a driver's seat. But, you know, the higher you go, definitely the things change. Even your management changes.
Totally,
you know, you're a manager of this artist for a certain time, and then once they get to a level, maybe even ready to go global, that becomes a whole different management team, and you don't need the manager probably that you know had in the beginning of that. So what you're saying definitely makes sense there. If you could change one thing about today's music industry, what would that be?
I think, you know, this is maybe partially done on purpose, partially not, but it's so, there's so many kind of entities and players, and it's so complicated. You know, you have the two types of copyrights, and different players are, like, the MLC is receiving the songwriter share.
Can we step back? Because some of the independent artists are not aware still of that organization. Can you tell why that was created?
Yes, so the MLC was created in 2018, somewhere around there. Pretty much kind of dawn of Spotify and this, streaming era created a lot of issues to the point where the U.S. government was actually like, we need to pass some laws here and figure things out. Essentially, the like Spotify and the labels for kind of independent artists weren't clear on. So independent artists, in order to kind of get paid out, right? Like there's metadata. So there's certain data that tracks your song, and then that's how you get paid out. And there was a lot of complexity and kind of incorrect metadata. So there was what was called, or still is, like black box royalties. So it's, hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars of royalties that like no one knows who to pay out to.
Right.
And, the labels, major labels were saying, well, we'll hold on to it till that gets figured out. And so essentially the MLC was created to help pay out these artists. And so you could actually, go on there now and get royalties you may be owed from the past, but now it's also a place where the songwriting share is being paid out through there, and then publishers and songwriters collect the music from there. So we're also working on trying to like automate the process of registering your work to the MLC, help streamline that process so that you can, get paid easier. But again, this is just one entity. You have PROs, and it's just a very complex industry. And yeah, I probably wish
Sound exchange.
Yeah, sound exchange, and maybe part of that is just the way it is. Like I don't know. I wish it was less complex. I guess then maybe I wouldn't be running a business, but I know that it would make a lot of artists' lives a lot easier.
It would, but I mean, I think you're doing that. You are making that part easier, and it is ever evolving. And since it's ever evolving, what are some of your plans with Mesa to keep being that innovator for artists?
Yeah. So we're going to be launching our initial, so we have this contract builder out. We're going to be launching this initial platform sometime in early 2025. And on that platform, again, you'll be able to organize projects, organize collaborators, create a contract when your project's done, and, play back those files and just kind of all in one place to organize that. But down the road, we're interested in helping automate registrations. So help you automate those works with PROs, with the MLC. Another issue is that a lot of times if someone registered the work on your behalf, you have to ensure that they actually put that in correctly so that you are getting paid out accurately. So helping artists, see, this is your song, this is where it's registered. Should it be registered in other places? Are these correct splits? So that's kind of the next step we're very interested in. But ultimately want to be this like full stack admin tool for artists. So then helping, with accounting and all these back end processes that are very important that you don't want to deal with, or that managers deal with. So also this is a product for managers to kind of help make their lives easier.
It's definitely, it's something that's not only needed. I think it's pretty timely. I think you're coming along at the right time for how things are evolving. And let's go ahead and give them the website again, just so they can contact you.
Yes. So the website is messawallet.io, MESA wallet.io. You can check out our contract builder there. You could also request early access to our platform through that website. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can email me at thomas@messawallet.io. So that's, I think my name's on the screen, THOMAS.
And we also have a page, that you'll have a page that'll be live on
so you can,
website as well.
Feel free to reach out to me via email. We're also on Instagram at Messa Wallet. Reach out there. So if anyone wants to get in touch, through the website or find me somewhere.
Yeah, these artists, they need to go find their worth. They need to collect the monies. They have everything registered right in the beginning. There are actual reports and news stories about how people have gone in and actually stolen royalties from songs.
Right.
And they've turned it to be a lot of money. Yeah. And it was because artists, they were either not registered right or just didn't even know that they were in these avenues.
Yeah.
And this is the way. So go to the website he just told you about. Find out if it works for you. I just got to tell you, you're working hard doing what you're doing, so go get your worth. Get
That's
all
right.
the money that's due you. Don't just leave it to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's collecting. And I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having
This
me.
has been pretty cool, and
That's
we'll
been
get together outside of here.
Yeah.
So again, thank you to Thomas Athey. Thank you to Mesa for letting us have him for today, and go check him out. And tell your friends about rBeatz.com. Tell them about the shows. We have other shows with Jen Busco, Greasy Keys, Annalise Pearl, and interviewing the people that make the music industry happen. The business people behind it, the aspiring artists. And if you want to be on the show, we want to know more about you. So make sure you contact us, and you can find more about us. Yeah, I mean, my Instagram is right here under my picture. So just DM me. I always answer the DMs, and I want to find out more about what you're doing and about your music community around you. Until next time, much love. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, 316. Got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, tight and birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position you can live in if you have some things in the air. If you got game, wiggle like you just don't care. If you got game, playing like you got no fit, and you got game.